Hi there, friends. It's Michelle with My Sweet Frivolity. Today I want to share with you what my current journal system is, my current notebook stack. There's multiple terms for this. And then after that, I'm going to go through a flip through of my everyday carry. And then I will share with you a few notebooks I will add into the lineup for 2026. So let's get started. This notebook here, a lot of people refer to this as a research and development notebook. This is a Leuchtturm 1917, and it is 120 GSM paper as opposed to their normal notebooks that are 80 GSM dot grid paper. And I started this out as an art journal. I'm not artistic, just to have a disclaimer here. I don't really paint or draw, but I do believe and I understand that you can develop that skill. And so this is how it started. I swatched some of my colored pencils here to begin with, and then I just started kind of playing in it more. And this is just what this looks like and how I use it for. I test some layouts, things of that nature. I did a Wrong DeVoe and Amy Plans Things had a workshop where they taught us Dutch doors, so I did that online, and this is my spread from that, and I did a few on my own. And so this is just various pages that I use to test out. Here's my very first ever calendar spread in a bullet journal. Found out it was really pretty small for writing in it. So various things of this nature, testing out different kinds of weekly spreads with stationery that I have. These aren't things that have gone in my bullet journal. Here you can see I'm doing some swatching of some subscription boxes, some things from Simply Gilded. So this is how I use this notebook here. And yeah, this is a good overall notebook just to kind of have to throw some things down and test some various different ideas out. And then I have this here is a Sterling Ink plain dot grid B6 size notebook, and this is what I use to swatch my fountain pen inks. So I don't have a ton of fountain pen inks, but I definitely have plenty, and I just use this because I want to know what the color is. Essentially, I don't use a lot of Tomoe River paper in my day-to-day journaling or planning, and so I don't necessarily care so much how it looks on various notebooks. I just basically need to know, hey, when I pick this up, about what the color looks like. So that's how I've used this here. Play around with some sprays of some fountain pen inks. And so definitely am not in this very often because right now I feel like I have plenty of fountain pen ink and I don't necessarily need to acquire more, but this is where I'll catalog it when I do buy something new. This here is another Leuchtturm notebook. It is what I call my commonplace book, and basically what I do with this is anytime I'm reading something where I'm studying something or reading a nonfiction book, I'll capture notes in here, especially if I check it out from a library. And so basically, this is a regular Leuchtturm 80 GSM dot grid paper. And so in here, I do have an index, and I've started another couple of index pages in here. And basically, I started the index. I need to go back through and add some indexed information in here. But how I use this is when I start a book title, or if, say, I'm listening to a conference or something that I want to take notes on, I will make a little rectangle and put in here so I can easily see this as I flip through and then go back and reference the page number that it's on in my index here. And so I've left myself plenty of space to do that. This has about 250 pages in it, and I'm only currently on page 75. So currently I'm reading a book that takes a lot of that I choose to take a lot of notes on, and so I'll go back and do some indexing with this. So this will last me for a while. Then I have this book here. I bought this on Amazon. It's a B6 size, and it has handmade paper in it. And basically, I just use this more as a mixed media art journal creative, oops, that's upside down, creative collage in here. And so, this is some items from Cora Korea Crafts subscription that I had earlier this year, a few different subscriptions. So I just kind of play around in here, and I'll use ink stamping and ink stamping. Sometimes I'll go through and I'll use paste and color that with fountain pen ink or other things, and then use a stencil. And so that's what this is for. And then I have my main notebook. This is my everyday carry. This is an Archer & Olive A5 160 GSM notebook. And I started this in July of 2025. So this is sort of my official first go at my variation of bullet journaling. And I have been in undated planners before. I've been in dated planners before, and I found for me, because of my work and my irregular schedule from week to week and month to month, that just having a plain notebook that I can get into and use how I need to works the best for me. So I do a variety of things in this notebook, everything from weekly planning, monthly planning, to daily journaling. I do have a bit of travel journaling in here as well. And so let's do a flip through of this. You can kind of see how I use this. Now, when I first started doing bullet journaling or using a notebook like this, I felt like I had to have all these specific page layouts and setups and spreads at the beginning. And so I did go through and leave about 6 pages empty at the beginning of this notebook. And so they were blank. And then my husband and I went to Nepal in September and October of this year, and we hiked the Everest Base Camp trek. And I couldn't take this notebook with me out of Kathmandu because I was a little bit restricted on weight and things that we were going to carry during our trek. And so I had a bunch of pages left over at the beginning of the notebook, and I went through and I did some travel journaling in here. I have made some pockets with some handmade papers I bought in Kathmandu, and so I'm going to go back through and stick those in here. It just adds a lot of bulk, so I'm almost finished with this notebook at the time of this filming. And so once I'm all the way done, I'll go back and fill these pockets that I made. But so this kind of gives you an idea here of how I use these pages. But initially I wasn't planning on doing this in this notebook. I just had basically have these empty pages, and I thought, well, I can't just, not use these. And so this was kind of my first attempt at a spread back in July of setting up, a future log. And then I made this just for 2026 plans. And then here's some notes I was taking in general about preparation we needed to do for our individual trek. This was some of our hiking that we did to get prepared for that in terms of our physical conditioning, a list of things to buy. And then this here is my first ever calendar spread that I made to do my planning with, basically. And I am a healthcare provider, and so I work in a setting where I'm working shift work, and my monthly schedule, my weekly schedule, they're never the same. I had more consistency in the month of July than I normally do. And so I just marked washi tape here on the days that I had work. And so I could sort of have that, in my mind, and knowing what days I would have open for other things. And so I was going to put a currently page in here, never really used this, so it's blank. Here's where I attempted to do some monthly trackers. You can see I set them up, but I never really filled them in. I liked how I did this though, and this was really pretty stationery from Notebook Therapy. Here's an example of a weekly spread. Here's some journaling I've done. some more journaling. We did Kings Peak in preparation for Everest Base Camp, and this is the highest peak in Utah. We hiked it in a day. It was a long day, but we made it 29 miles. And so I'm going to go back in and actually add some notes that I recorded on my phone during the hike, just kind of highlights of that particular day. And so again, just you can tell I'm kind of trying to figure out my style. I'm trying to figure out what works for me, what doesn't. So I do have some blank pages in between, and I think that's okay when you're, just starting. You're trying to find out what works for you, and so that's most of July and August here. Again, I set up some habit trackers for the month of August, but never even wrote in what habits to track, so I didn't use this spread at all, but it was fun to decorate. And then again, some people do currentlies and to-dos for the month. I never really filled this out. I have a whole weekly spread here where I didn't really use this page at all. Some stationery subscriptions. 2025 has been the year of my subscription, getting into stationery subscriptions, so just started to track those here. So just kind of various page layouts and trying kind of more of the traditional stuff. And then I got to August, middle of August, and I started realizing, hey, you know what? This is a blank notebook. Let's just use it how it's going to function best for you. So this is kind of marks the first time where, I want to do a little play with some stencils and some of the acrylic paint markers. And so when I started doing this, just kind of brain dumping for the day and, task lists or grocery shopping lists or whatever I needed to do, this is when this notebook started working a lot more for me. So here I am in August, or December 2nd today at the time of this filming. And so, I ended up filling up pretty much this whole notebook in, September, October, November, and we're not even in December. So this is about 3.5 months of really filling this notebook in. And so I'm just going to do a quick flip through. These are some of the various things I do, and you might recognize some of the stationery if you subscribe to our Journal of quarterly subscription boxes. And I just use this how I needed to. I would do morning pages in this. I would write my task list for the day. If I had a really busy day on my day off, I would kind of do some time blocking. And so this is various different things. Again, this is playing with various stationery and layouts. And I've really enjoyed this because it works for me. I just kind of use it how I feel like it and helps me keep track of my days. And so sometimes I'm using more journaling in a week, and sometimes I'm using more of the actual planner part of that. Oh, this was kind of fun. I had this thank you note. Wanted to duplicate this with some acrylic paint markers, so that was fun to do. Here's where I start doing a little bit more travel journaling again, because we were in Kathmandu by this point, and while I was in the hotel and before we left to go to Lukla and start our trek, I had this notebook with me. And so I'm doing a lot of travel note-taking in this. Here's a postcard I picked up of Everest because we had really bad weather, not terrible weather, but we never had one view of Everest besides what we saw in Namche Bazaar. And so I wanted to pick up a postcard, and I threw it in here because this was the time while we were, doing our trek. And, this is from our trekking company, our itinerary, and so I just kind of tipped that in. So I felt like, hey, why not put this in here? And some people like a separate traveler's journal, and I liked to keep it all together. And so when we got back into town, so you can just kind of see here how I use this. We had an impromptu second trip right after, so I kind of used this paper monogatari spread, which I love, but now I might not be able to get anymore because of the shipping delays to the U.S. But so anyways, that kind of gives you an idea how I choose to use my blank notebook. And so here I'm starting to do a little bit more tracking specifically. Of course, we had the Black Friday sales in here, so I did buy a lot of additional stationery in here. But I found this works really, really well for me because I can play around with new stationery that I get. I'm okay with the fact that it's not all uniform throughout week to week and month to month because it fulfills a creative need for me, and I enjoy a lot of the stationery kits and things that I purchase, and I want to use them without saving them necessarily for something else. So this has been great for me. I really enjoyed this. You can do things where you glue 2 pages together. This is a little affirmations page. It's more of a testing out because I'm going to add this into my next notebook. But basically, I only have in this, I only have a few pages left. I'm down to the last, we're right at the beginning of December. I'm down to the last 5 or 6 pages, and so I'll probably finish the week out in this notebook, and then I'm going to go ahead and move into my next notebook, which I'll show you here. I'm going to try a B5 size, and this I'm going to start in December. I'm not going to wait till 2026 to start it. I am toying with some ordering of layouts and things like that. So I haven't started committing to paper yet, other than just penciling in and sticky notes in here. But this is a B5 size, so I'm going to have to get used to a little bit different size, a little bit bigger. But I'll probably do a December calendar in here and then finish out the month of December, and then I'll set up some specific things for 2026 in this notebook, and I hope to get that done over the next week to week and a half, so it is ready to go. But I'm excited to use this. I think this will be a lot of fun. So that's what I'm going to move on to next for my everyday carry, and I'll spend the most of my time in just a notebook like this. And then a couple things I'm going to add in. I do want to start a reading journal. This here is an 8x8. It's another notebook from Archer and Olive. I just really do like their notebooks. And so this came out with their Halloween collection. I read, but it's, again, somewhat inconsistent. And so I feel like if I set up a specific reading journal, I'll definitely be reading more regularly. And so I do want to set that up. So I've got some ideas of some spreads that I'll use in this. And that's what I'll be adding for 2026. And then being a medical professional, I do want to have a separate notebook outside of my everyday carry that I bring with me to work in my work bag, that I can take notes on cases or things that I want to remind myself of. Anything that's kind of job related, medically related, I'm going to go ahead and use this notebook. So that is what I have for you today. I hope you found this might be helpful in you figuring out your own notebook and bullet journal planner journey. I love being in a notebook that's has no structure. Right now it's working really well for me, and I can't wait to share more with you, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.